Today I'm cutting apart Koio's new sneaker, the Metro, to see what's inside of it and how it's built. So we're pretty close to hitting two important milestones. The first one is probably by the time this video comes out, we'll be just about to 200,000 subscribers, if not already there. And the second one is I finally got an apartment and I'm no longer sleeping out of the office that I edit these videos out of. And then all through October, we're gonna do the Mocktoe series. And I don't know how I didn't think of this until just recently, but Mocktoe series in October, Mocktober. So I want to create a little graphic for it. So if you're a graphic designer and you have a cool idea for it, hit me up on Instagram and I'll pay you to design a little logo for the series. So now let's talk about these shoes. The brand is Koio, the model is the Metro, and it comes in a bunch of different colors, and I'll add the photos here, but the ones that I have currently are the white on white, the regular white, and black. And all of them retail for $198, and they're all made in the Marche region of Italy. And this video is sponsored by Koio, so if you want to save 15% off any of the colors of the Metros, use the code RAMetro15 at checkout and save you 15%. And I really like doing these sponsored videos because you guys get a discount from it. They support the channel by sponsoring a video, and you guys get to see more shoes cut open more often to see what's inside of them, see how they're built, and be able to judge if you want to buy something based off of actual information instead of just guessing about what's inside of it. So thank you guys for supporting this channel by supporting these sponsors and continuing to check out these brands that are willing to take a leap of faith and allow me to destroy their product on YouTube and pay me for it. Now let's go over kind of the information that we can glean from these shoes before cutting them in half, starting with the outsole. So this outsole is a Margam outsole, and I hadn't seen it before in any other shoes, so I asked Koio kind of where this came from. They told me that they went through the Margam archives and found a sole that they really liked, and they revived it and brought it back to life specifically for this shoe, which I thought was really cool. Next, the leather. So all the leathers, they're all a little bit different. Like these two are tumbled. This one is more like their capri that we cut apart for the white sneaker series. But they're all full grain leather, and they're all, I'm guessing they're all calfskin or cowhide. And on that note, there's one thing that Koio does that they're undefeated in any shoe that I've cut apart, or even boot that I've cut apart up to this point. The edges on their leather, they paint every single edge, which is crazy because especially with these shoes, there's so many different panels. They take the time to paint every single edge instead of having a raw edge like all the other shoes that we've seen. So that's one really cool thing that Koio does that really makes them stand out in my opinion. Next thing I noticed, and this might be kind of a tiny thing for most people, but these shoelaces are really nice shoelaces. You know, I don't really talk about shoelaces on this channel because most of them are just cheap shoelaces, but these they kind of remind me of like a waxed boot shoelace, but these are just a waxed, I'm assuming, cotton shoelace. And I won't be cutting these up on this cut in half because I actually want to save these shoelaces because they're really nice. And then on to the inside, so this is fabric lined versus the capri that we cut apart was leather lined. Next is the removable lining. I'm gonna actually pull this one out too. This is kind of interesting. It's a partially recycled polyurethane foam insert that's removable, which is really nice. Topped with the same leather that they use in the upper, or a similar leather that they use in the upper. And then from there, if we look underneath, we see that it's not a fiberboard insole like we saw in their Capri or some of the other white sneakers that we've torn apart. It's more similar to the Stan Smiths, where it's kind of a woven material. So I'm interested to see how thick it is, because the problem I had with the Stan Smiths, it was so thin that after a while you would start to lose a structure, and the cells on the inside of the sole would potentially start being felt through the insole and the insert. So I'm interested to see how that's how thick it is in there and how rigid. And then we can also see it's strobel stitch. So that basically is the stitch that holds the insole to the side of the upper, and then we also see a little bit of stitching from the sidewall. Lastly, so the silhouette of the shoe is really interesting. It's similar to their white sneaker, where it's more narrow than a regular shoe, and I really like that because a lot of times with this style of shoe, they're really big and bulky and they kind of look like clown shoes, but this has a really nice slim silhouette. If you've got really wide feet, they might be a little bit too narrow for you. For me, they're right on the edge of being just wide enough, but I'm also overly sensitive about it. And the actual design of the shoe reminds me a lot of a classic Reebok sneaker. So I like the overall look of this shoe. That's kind of the general information, all the information we can gather from without cutting them in half. So now let's cut them in half. Oh, and I think I'm gonna keep the black ones to add to my personal collection to wear around. So I think we're gonna cut up one of the white ones. I don't know which ones yet. Probably we'll do these ones because I think this leather is the same as their capri. And this is a tumbled, softer leather. So let's cut this open and kind of check out what's going on inside of this one. Okay, we got it cut in half. Let's see what's inside. Pretty simple construction. There's not a whole lot to it. There is no steel shank, which I've never really been convinced that a shoe needs a steel shank anyway. So let's go through the layers and kind of identify what they are and go from there. So starting with the outsole, we got the Margam outsole that we talked about. It's built almost identically to the other Margam outsoles. Feels like a similar compound, similar structure on the inside. Then up from there, we've got the layer of, it's not a fiberboard, but I peeled back the layer of the insole and it says it's a Biagioli, Biagioli. I have no idea how to say that. I'm probably butchering it. But it's kind of a more flexible and softer fiberboard. It's a lot more open and it's not quite as hard. So I think it's still gonna give you the platform you need to equally distribute your weight amongst these little cells on the inside of the Margam outsole. And it might break into your foot a little bit faster, it might be a little bit softer. I wonder if, since this doesn't have a shank, if they need the flexibility of this type of insole, because the fiberboard, it's a lot harder, but if you bend it over and over a few times, it starts to separate and crack. Whereas this stuff, this is really flexible and it's a lot more malleable, and I could see how after flexing this over and over and over as you're wearing it, without the support of a steel shank through here, this might last a little bit longer without separating, without breaking down. So I'm guessing that's what it's for, you know, because some of the dressier sneakers that we've been tearing apart aren't really made for occasionally jogging around or semi-athletic pursuits, you know? So that makes a lot more sense, especially compared to the Stan Smiths. Okay, moving up from there, we have the insert, like I talked about earlier, partially recycled polyurethane, PU insert with the leather on top. And then we got the fabric liner. There's a couple different fabrics in here. This one in the forefront of the foot looks like it's more of a breathable lining leather or lining fabric. And then the back is more of a, maybe one for comfort. You know, if you're wearing a lower sock, this is gonna wear on your ankle a little bit better than this up here. Maybe not as breathable. And then the counter, it's kind of the same woven counter that we saw in the Capri. And I asked them why they did the woven counter, the fabric counter from their last shoe. And they mentioned that they like the flexibility and the comfort of the woven fabric counter over the leather. They like that it doesn't have as much potential to break. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then up from there, we go to the leather. So this leather, it looks really similar to the leather that we reviewed in the Capri, that's similar to this one, but it's tumbled. So tumbling, if you don't know, basically they take the leather after it's done tanning and after it's done mostly through the finishing process, they throw it in basically what's like a giant tumbler. It's kind of like just a big dryer without the heat, and it tumbles the hides and basically flexes them over and over as it's tumbling through there. It softens the leather and it gives you that kind of pebble texture that the tumbled leather is known for. As for what type of leather, it's a chrome tan leather. We can tell that by the cross section. We see a little bit of bluing on the inside. We can see that grain pattern, so we know that they're telling the truth about it being a full grain leather, and I'm guessing it's a calf skin. Toasty wants to come on screen a little bit. And as for measurement, I gotta find my caliper. I literally lose my caliper every single time I do a video. Let me find my caliper. So the leather is a 1.5 to 2 millimeter leather, depending on which part of the leather you're looking at. So I think it's a pretty decent leather. You know, it's not the nicest leather in the world, but for a sneaker, it's a really good leather. It's a lot better than the Nike leather or even the Adidas leather we've looked at previously. So that's kind of the breakdown of what's going on inside of the shoe. So now I guess the question is, what do you get for a $200 Italian-made sneaker? You know, because you could buy a sneaker that looks similar to these ones for a lot less money. What's the difference between that sneaker and this $200 Italian sneaker? I would say the first thing, and probably the most important thing, is the attention to detail. All those edges are painted. It's a higher quality leather. You see a lot higher construction quality with this better insole, this Margam outsole. And lastly, I think it's a little bit more of a refined style. I think the silhouette is a little bit slimmer, a little bit more fashion friendly rather than kind of big and clunky like you see in a lot of other brands. So I think that's what you're getting when you're buying a $200 Koio Metro shoe. The things I don't like, and this is more of a personal preference, I don't love padded tongues. I'd rather just have a piece of leather there. I also don't super love fabric liners unless I'm wearing the sneaker in the summer, because I feel like it's kind of a trade-off. A fabric liner, it's cooler, but to me it gets smellier faster, but I also work a lot on my feet, and I make shoes stink really fast because I'm always sweating in the shop. A leather liner, on the other hand, it's gonna be a lot hotter, but it's not gonna smell as fast. So it's kind of a trade-off. And the foam insert, it's a little thin, and it's not quite as squishy as others. So that's a positive and a negative depending on who you are. And all these things they're all pretty nitpicky, and none of them would sway me away from buying the shoe, but they're worth mentioning. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you like and dislike about this shoe. What are the aspects you like? Because I think it's kind of interesting to go into the comment section and see how other people's opinions weigh against mine, and maybe what I got wrong, and just seeing a different perspective on things. So thanks for everything you guys do. Thanks for watching this video. Consider buying these if you like them. You can use the discount code RAMetro15 for the 15% off, and that discount's only for 2 weeks. So if you want these, get them before that discount expires. And thanks for supporting this company. Thanks for supporting the channel, and we'll see you for Mocktober and the rest of the White Sneaker series. See you again.